Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast, a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today.
GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Emily Ferrier, here to bring you some uplifting news stories in these trying times. For our first story, Meals on Wheels. If you haven't heard of it, it's a delivery service or lunch service at a senior center. It's been around for more than 50 years. And the federal government's been funding the program to make sure that older Americans get the same nutrition that they need. In Vancouver, Washington, however, Meals on Wheels use these funds for something new. A hip diner where seniors can get their breakfast fix and a sense of community. Picture this: waiters topping off coffee, casual business meetings, and regulars who don't need a menu. Greasy diner specialties, but with a few modern nods, like cage-free eggs, local produce, those sort of things that really cultivate New World style, but at that classic kind of feel that everybody likes at a diner. This is a quote: "They play Frank Sinatra in the mornings, and it makes me so happy," says Autumn Zukowskis, who comes for breakfast weekly. Eggs and Frank Sinatra. Perfect breakfast. When the younger patrons like Zukowskis reach for her credit card, seniors like Chris Bergenheimer pull out a little green dining card. If you can donate, you do. And if you don't, you don't, he explains. And it's no big deal to them. The entire diner is a project of the local organization Meals on Wheels people. So, if you look a little closer at this diner, like one of those "what's different between these two pictures?", some of the changes have been made. The chairs are equipped so that they can slide out very easily to make space for a wheelchair. The cups have larger handles to accommodate some arthritic digits, and the finishing touches are made to minimize noise but maximize comfort. Suzanne Washington, the CEO of Meals on Wheels People, which serves actually about 5,000 meals a day. Most of them are home delivery, but some want to go to the senior center. We heard a lot of folks say that it was just too much of a stigma to go, Washington said. The thing is that some baby boomers still think that seniors are for their grandparents, or, they're still working, they can't get away for lunch, so why not try a restaurant? A restaurant is intergenerational. It's good food, and the paying public can help offset the costs of those in our program. So, there is actually a slightly different menu for participating seniors, like an added fruit cup or a glass of milk so that it meets the nutritional requirements. But the rest of the things are actually still part of the program. Because we can never make Eggs Benedict meet regulations, it just doesn't work. So the menu's still very good. It might not be a 5-star hotel menu, but that's not what you expect at a diner anyway. The diner's been averaging about 140 subsidized meals every month. They sign up about 38 new members per month, and that's 3 times the amount of traditional senior centers. Those who come for a meal just donate a little extra. you can donate, $2 to $3, and that's much higher than any other senior center. And it provides 1.2 million seniors meals annually. So the increase is huge. Now, the sign-ups also get a visit from client services, who does assessments, makes sure that everything is connected, and gives them any information that they haven't actually found out at a regular senior center. The decline in participation at a traditional senior center isn't actually just a problem in the Northwest. It's a national trend, says Manoj Pardasani, who is a professor of social work at Hunter College. Many senior centers are witnessing declining in participation rates. So, Pardasani says that the decline is due to a multitude of factors, like not reflecting the diversity in the population, or looking at a senior center as something for needy people. And that's a little bit concerning, because they actually do a lot for seniors. It's not just food. They provide like a sense of community that maybe these seniors have lost touch with over the years. And it provides a huge benefit for mental and emotional health to be socializing with people that have had similar experiences to you, at least life-wise. So this is what this diner does. It's social. It doesn't just bring the meal to your house. It brings you to the meal, and it brings you to other people so you can chat to your neighbors. Everyone here is so nice, says Amber Zakauskas. And they pay everyone a living wage, so all your tips just go to donations for Meals on Wheels. And that's amazing. That's something I want to give money to. Obviously, the diner's gone through its hiccups, adjusting, dealing with staffing and figuring out how to juggle rushes at different times of the day and who needs to eat earlier and later and things like that. But that's why we need to wait for these things, to have a few years to get into its stride. So there are ways to donate to this if you're interested in donating, or you're interested in going, of course, look into it online. It actually sounds like a really incredible idea to me. I was a brunch server for a number of years, and I will say that I worked at a diner, and the majority of my clientele were senior citizens, and it is a really nice thing. It's a really nice sense of community. I knew everyone really well, and everyone knew the menu really well, and that was really nice. And I think that it's really important to make sure that people feel that sense of community as they grow older, so that they feel they're still a part of our society. So when we come back, we're going to talk about another story of intergenerational help with seniors when we return from the break.
The GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Before the break, we talked about how dinner in Washington is keeping the spirits up of some of our oldest citizens. So now we're going to talk about a younger generation who is helping to incorporate technology into senior citizens' lives. So, the United States now has 46 million people who are over the age of 65. And that's unprecedented for what we're equipped to deal with, I suppose. Not deal with. I don't mean deal with, like we don't need to deal with our older population, but we're not quite ready to handle people that have been in retirement for that long. And not only are we learning how to navigate the world with our increased populations, but these senior citizens are now having to start adopting technology, things that they might not have ever used back in, things that they definitely didn't use back in the same days as when I was using them. So they need help. They need to learn a little bit more about it. They definitely need help using their electronic devices like smartphones, and these things could potentially put seniors at a risk for social isolation, and that could lead to poor health and earlier death. It's also pretty expensive. It's nearly $7 billion in association with isolation spending by Medicare. So what's been happening is a startup company in Albuquerque has been matching tech-savvy young people with seniors. These are called teen years coaches, and they're using smartphones, computers, and tablets. The founder's named Trish Lopez. She pitched the idea for women entrepreneurs in 2015 after realizing that her mom needed a little bit of help. She'd lost a password, and she'd lose a document, and then she didn't know a simple command like Control-Z that could undo everything that she'd just done, Lopez said. And then she would just start over again. As a new mom herself with some busy work, Lopez said that she needed someone to help her mom. I also wish I'd had patience to help her the way that I wanted to. This is where I struggle. Because when I'm helping my parents with technology, I do get quite frustrated because they don't understand it. And that's where I think that this program is really beneficial and really lovely, because it's very difficult to teach people things that you understand so completely. But that's because I was sort of raised on it. Not as a child, but it did, like, technology has been a part of my life for a very long time. Whereas these older generations, it's very new to them still. And they learn to navigate the world without it. And we certainly didn't. So this program has served more than 3,000 seniors in New Mexico. And it's landed all kinds of grants so that they can serve people who can't afford to pay. I think that's why we've been so successful, she said. The intergenerational learning experience is really remarkable, and that's why I always say the main service we provide is not tech support, it's human connection. That's why this program is so successful. It doesn't really matter specifically which buttons you're teaching them to press, but you are helping, like, the connection between the generations, and that's what's really important to our society, I think. People would be ringing me, and I didn't know how to answer it, said Camilla Dorsey, who's 76. She's someone that was helped by the program. I'd be crying and frustrated and feeling totally useless and old. So, this study found that 4 in 10 seniors owned smartphones, but often lack the confidence in learning how to use the same devices. Dorsey's a retired teacher, so she obviously knows how to teach and knows what the world is, and she's lived all over the world. Ever since the passing of her husband, she's felt alone and isolated and too ashamed to admit that she didn't know how to answer her new phone. But one of the teen years helped her out, helped her download WhatsApp, and now she talks to her family and friends regularly in Africa and Europe for free. This is exactly what I'm talking about, stories like Dorsey's. It's the simplest things, and it's very easy. Maybe to her it wasn't that easy, but it's very easy to solve, but just having that connection and having someone be very nice about it and not be judgmental and just say, like, I know how to do this. I've been raised on this. I will absolutely happily help you out with it. So there are many, 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 many other stories like this from the Teen Years program. And if you would like to look more into it, please, I encourage you to look at the article. And if you're interested in starting a Teen Years program in your own area, maybe you think that this would be something that would benefit the seniors in your area as well, maybe send Trish Lopez a message and ask her how you could expand it. When we return, we are going to talk about some incredible teenagers. One in particular who won a lottery and donated his winnings. That when we return.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Talking about some incredible programs to help seniors navigate the world of technology. And now we're going to talk about some other incredible teenagers. One in particular from Portland, Oregon, who won Jeopardy and put his winnings towards a great cause. When Avi Gupta appeared on Jeopardy, he learned that Alex Trebek was fighting stage 4 pancreatic cancer. So when he received his earnings of $10,000, he donated them to the OHSU Knights Cancer Institute in honor of Trebek. Yeah, that's not all. He didn't stop there. He didn't stop by giving up all of his earnings that he got from this show, Jeopardy. He did some fundraising on his own and multiplied it. Gupta said, "I feel very excited that the campaign succeeded to this level. Beyond excited to share today that we've raised over $200,000 for pancreatic cancer, so that's over 20 times increase over my initial donation. The money's all going towards this cancer research. So I wanted to know, who is OHSU? I took a look at their website, and what it reads: OHSU researchers transform science every day with their discoveries, whether it's in the lab, the clinic, the community, or the larger world. Our work is challenging the status quo to improve health for all Oregons and beyond. How do we do it? By working together across disciplines and with partners all over the world. We're renowned for both our collaborative culture and its freedom to innovate. Our researchers and culture provide nidus for ambition, experimentation, leading to major discoveries in neuroscience, cancer biology, and the treatment of infectious disease and beyond. Physical activity, time spent in front of screens, length and quality of sleep, sports injuries, and substance abuse. Each has its impact on the developing adolescent brain, but detailed information about the specific effects of these experiences has been challenging to measure, in part because it's been difficult to see on the brain. But now, with these researchers, part of a national team from 19 institutions, the effects of adolescent substance on use on brains this year have begun a massive development in approximately 10,000 children over the course of 10 years. So these incredible researchers at this institute have been making absolute headway in many, many, many areas, and especially in cancer, and specifically in pancreatic cancer, to which Gupta raised some money for, and won some money for. As for Gupta himself, he's now a freshman at Columbia University, where he plans to study computer science. I think this is an absolutely incredible story. I mean, I like to think that I would be that generous and that I would donate my winnings to charity, but I have to admit, it would be pretty hard. I gotta say, like, as someone who's struggled in the past or currently with finances, it is pretty incredible of a teenager to donate all of his earnings in support of the man who got him the winnings in the first place, really, Alex Trebek. Gupta's a pretty amazing guy. When we return, another impressive teen. An American teen who's selflessly donating to better our world.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now, don't bother, what's hot on Netflix, and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Talking about a phenomenal teen who donated his Jeopardy earnings to research in the disease that was attacking longtime Jeopardy host Alex Trebek. And now we're going to talk about another teen selflessly donating, but this time he was donating his time, efforts, and a little bit of funds that he raised so that he could bring free healthcare screenings to people experiencing homelessness in his town in St. Louis. And this is all because of a game of chess. So he's a 17-year-old junior. His name is Damon Conchler, and he went to play chess at St. Peter and Paul's shelters in Soulard. And he just got into some conversations with some of the people that he was playing chess with at the shelter. Many of these men had rashes and other skin conditions, and they were in so much pain they couldn't move their hands. So Damon thought he needed to do something to bring healthcare to these people who can't go to healthcare themselves. and he asked Mercy South for some funds for blood pressure screenings. Something as simple as blood pressure screenings would be able to help these people out. And what he said was that everyone was surprised that he was asking for it. One of the people he was helping out said, most people wouldn't think to help others like this. That's absolutely true. Most people wouldn't, and especially somebody that young. I'm personally very impressed by this. He had the idea just from chatting to people a little bit and talking to them and seeing that they had needs that weren't being fulfilled. And instead of being a little bit sad about it or thinking, oh, well, this is the way life is, we'll just have to move on, he decided to actually do something about it, to go out, to raise the funds, and he did it. And he got the blood pressure machines, and guess what? They've been helping. As it turns out, a lot of the people that used the blood pressure machines did actually have quite low blood pressure and had to be referred on so that could be fixed. And Devin's not stopping there. He wants to bring even more screenings to other areas to raise funds to screen for diabetes. Yeah, this kid is absolutely incredible. I'm personally very, very impressed by him. And you know what? I'm pretty motivated myself. This makes me want to do more in my own community. So I hope that you're inspired by Devin to go out, to go to shelters, to see what the needs are that aren't being met, and to do something about it, to raise the funds and figure it out. It's so impressive to see someone so young do such an incredible thing. I really hope that in the future we won't need homeless shelters because we will eventually be able to solve the issue that we're having with homelessness. But until then, let's do our part. When we return, a heartwarming reunion between a nurse and her patient. This, when we return.
Pets bring such joy to our lives, and the GSMC Pets podcast is here to share in that joy. We'll tell stories of pets finding their forever homes, acting in unexpected ways, being helpful, or just being silly. Whether you love dogs, cats, llamas, reptiles, fish, or you've never met an animal you didn't like, the GSMC Pets podcast is for you.
Talking about some incredible teens that were making huge steps to make our society better. And now, we're going to talk about a neonatal nurse who discovered her new colleague was a baby that she looked after in the intensive care unit 3 decades earlier. Vilma Wong is an NICU nurse at the Lucille Packard Children's Hospital in Palo Alto, California, where she's worked for 32 years. Dr. Brandon Seminator is currently completing his residency at the same hospital where he was born at 29 weeks in April 1990. For a month after being born, he was looked after by Wong because he was born so prematurely. But now, the pair have reunited. Wong recognized her former patient's name as soon as she saw it, but couldn't really remember why it rang a bell. And then he said that he was actually a patient there 28 years earlier, and she put it together. A few weeks ago, Brandon joined my team and was taking care of one of my patients, said Wong. I asked who he was. His name and his last name sounded very familiar. Kept asking where he was from, and he told me that he was from San Jose, California, and that, as a matter of fact, he was a premature baby born at our hospital. I then got very suspicious because I remember being the primary nurse to a baby with the same last name. I asked if his dad was a police officer, and there was a big silence. And he asked if I was Vilma. I said yes. His mother asked him to look out for a nurse called Vilma, but the doctor had presumed that she would have already retired. The fact that the pair did meet was surreal, according to David. I'd never expected to meet a provider that took care of me when I was a baby. When Vilma recognized my name, I remembered the photos my parents had shown me, and it truly sunk in that I was one of those babies. I came full circle, and now I'm taking care of babies with the nurse who took care of me. He texted his parents as soon as he and Wong made the discovery, and they replied straight away with the picture from 28 years earlier. She was overwhelmed. I was in shock initially, but overjoyed, and knew that I took care of him almost 30 years ago, and now he's a pediatric resident in the same population he was a part of when he was born. When the pictures hit Facebook, they went absolutely viral, getting nearly 30,000 reactions. But the most important aspect is seeing patients like this, who are critically ill at birth, thrive. I love my job. As a nurse, I consider myself very lucky to be in a profession that I love that makes a difference in somebody else's life. Wong came to the U.S. when she was 16. She got her BS and MS nursing degrees, and her first job was at the hospital that she still works for now. It's really special to see that almost 30 years later, Brendan has a passion to treat patients who are in the same position that he was all those years ago. Meeting Vilma showed me the dedication and love that she has for her career. She cares deeply for her patients, to the point that she was able to remember a patient's name almost 3 decades later. Sometimes I can't even remember what kind of breakfast I had in the morning. It's pretty incredible. Not all of us will get the chance to see our patients grow up, and I was happy to be able to share that moment. That must have been an incredible moment for both of them. They probably felt like they were always so connected, on some level at least. And now they're reunited, and now he's doing exactly the thing that saved his life all those years ago. It's really cool to see that kind of thing come full circle. I like to think that there's probably a few more stories out there, so if you hear of any, or if you have a story like that, please write in. We would love, love, love to hear that. Well, that's it for that segment, and when we come back, we're going to do a quick fire round of my favorite good news stories of the past couple of days. So that's when we return.
The Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast, the show that gives you advice on everything travel. We explore places you've always wanted to go, as well as giving tips for traveling in those places. We'll give you advice on the best sites for travel tips, information, and discounts. Join us as we travel the world, explore cultures, and meet new people. The Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast has got you covered. Download the GSMC Travel Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
We were talking about an incredible reunion between patient and nurse. And now, time for a quick fire round of my favorite good news stories from the past few days. Number 1. A stray dog jumped into action to help his kindergartners safely cross a busy street. So, this dog, so cute. A group of kindergartners in Georgia were trying to cross a busy street, and several cars were driving past without stopping. So this little stray neighborhood dog took it upon himself to just bark at the oncoming cars and clear the road so that the children could get across. And they did. They got across, and he became an internet sensation, obviously. And somebody even managed to film it, so you can look that up later. Number 2, a 100-year-old bookstore has been given a much-needed boost in business after they made a social media post about their first tumbleweed day with no customers. So the Petersfield bookstore of Petersfield, England, posted several photos of their empty shop, lamenting that not a single book had been sold that day. This blew up Twitter. And Twitter, obviously, the best way to get something across. It ended up flooding the bookshop with orders. So later on, Tumbleweed Day, turns out, was not the only bleak day for them. But since the Twitter about the tumbleweed blew up, they have increased their profits astronomically. So this is pretty incredible. This social media exposure, it's a good idea. Maybe continue to do that. Number 3, an intrepid team of brothers has become the youngest and fastest trio to row across the Atlantic. After spending 35 days, 9 hours, and 9 minutes at sea, they beat the previous world record by 6 days. Yeah. This isn't the only record that they've set, by the way. These brothers have done quite a bit. They were 12th last year, completing a 3,000-mile ocean crossing. And they had to row the last 20 days without any music, podcasts, or audiobooks. Oh, so hard. So hard. They were able to keep themselves entertained with bagpipes, a harmonica, and a ukulele. They obviously will be doing some other challenges because they absolutely loved it, even though it challenged them and their relationships to each other. They weren't just doing it for fun, though. They were raising some funds for the Madagascar and Children First funds. They've raised over £250,000, and they continue to raise more. It's a very impressive thing to do. I'm very impressed. I hope they continue to do so. Number 4. Researchers at Cardiff University have discovered a new type of killer T-cell that is a one-size-fits-all cancer therapy. Yeah, that's right. It's not quite 100% a cure for cancer, but it's nearly there. They've modified this to seek and destroy cancer cells. Yeah. This TCR recognizes a molecule present on the surface of cancer cells as many of the body's normal cells. Remarkably, can distinguish between healthy cells and cancerous ones, killing the latter. The researchers said that it's meant to offer exciting opportunities for the pan-cancer population. Yeah. This is unprecedented. It's beyond anything that we might have thought. So it's very exciting stuff. And number 5, the state of Florida is purchasing more than 20,000 acres of wetlands to protect them from oil drilling. Yes, the state of Florida is helping the environment. It's very, very cool and very exciting and really beautiful news. So I really, really wanted you guys to hear about this one before we go. One of my administrative's top environmental priorities has been expediting Everglades restoration, says Governor DeSantis. Today we take another step in the right direction by reaching this agreement between the DEP and the Kenter Real Estate that will allow for the purchase of 20,000 acres of critical wetlands. This is a significant purchase and will permanently save these lands from oil drilling. I'm proud of our progress, but also recognize that this is just the beginning. I will continue to fight every day for the Everglades and Florida's environment. I personally love hearing about this because I am such a fan of the environment, and I would love if we got to keep it and keep the world, because there is still beauty in America, people. There is still beauty here. So let's try really hard to see it, shall we? Thank you so much again for listening to the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'd like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review and rate the episode. It really, really helps us. Also, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and thank you again so much, and have a great night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows. From the GSMC Podcast Network, from social media news to marketing news, and even weird news, the GSMC Podcast Network has you covered. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast.